What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the number 6 recruiting class in the nation, Penn State. Penn State's coming off a little bit of a disappointing season at 7-6. James Franklin has a lot of work to do. They made a big change on the coaching staff, adding Manny Diaz as defensive coordinator this offseason. I think that's going to be huge for Penn State, which we'll talk about later. Penn State was able to do some really good recruiting in state, landing 10 guys, as well as recruiting a little bit in Florida and a few more guys in the East Coast. Overall, Penn State had a really good recruiting class, bringing in a bunch of 4-star talent. With that being said, going into the quarterback position, we actually have 2 quarterbacks in this class. Normally, schools will only recruit 1 quarterback and kind of really stick to that guy. They'll throw out a couple offers, but normally schools won't usually land 2 quarterbacks, but Penn State did. Penn State was able to land the number 4 quarterback in the nation, 5-star Drew Aller from Medina, Ohio. This guy has really good arm talent. This guy, I expect this guy to be a really good ball player one day for Penn State. He's got some pretty good height at 6'4.5". He knows how to take really good command of an offense, and he's really just a well-rounded quarterback overall. Then you also have Bo Prabula, who's a 3-star number 30th quarterback in the nation. He also has some really good arm talent and size at 6'2". You kind of expect him to be second to Drew Aller in terms of depth chart later on down the road once Aller is promoted to a starter, which could be sooner rather than later. I know during the spring game, Penn State wasn't really eye-popping at the quarterback position. However, if things don't always work out with Aller, you do have Bo Prabula that can come in. He's only a 3-star, but you never know what can happen with quarterbacks at that position. Now going to the running back position, which in my opinion was Penn State's strongest part of the recruiting class. They landed number 1 running back, 5-star Nick Singleton, as well as 4-star running back, number 12 in the class at that position, in Katron Allen from IMG Academy. Both of these running backs have really good talent. I think this is going to be a really good 1-2 punch in the future for Penn State. You could very well see these 2 guys dominating the running game at Penn State. Nick Singleton, in my opinion, has a very high ceiling. I think you could one day see that guy as a first-round draft pick. And Katron Allen, a lot of these guys were recruiting him. The fact that he was able to join Nick Singleton at Penn State should be a scary sight for a lot of defenses in the Big Ten in years to come. Now looking at the wide receiver position for Penn State, as you can tell with the size, they kind of went down to smaller, more shiftier wide receivers this year in the class. One of the big outliers in this, though, is tight end Jerry Cross from Milwaukee. If you see his size, he's 6'6", 257. He's going to be lethal as a tight end in the passing game. When you have that kind of size, you're going to be utilized a lot in the right offense. But kind of going down the list here, you kind of see the size that they went with, which you could see with Saunders at 5'10", and now you have Amari Evans, Anthony Ivy, and Tyler Johnson, who are all 6 foot. Like I said, Penn State went with a faster group of wide receivers this year. But regardless, this Penn State wide receiver room looks really strong all around. Now looking at the offensive line, Penn State was able to round out their offensive recruiting class very well by this line group. They were able to land J.B. Nelson, the number 1 offensive tackle in the nation, standing at 6'6", 310. And kind of looking at the rest of these guys, Penn State could very well be a force up front in the years to come. The offensive line was kind of Penn State's weakness this past year, but if they can protect their quarterback and run the ball at a consistent rate, Penn State's offense could be very good in years to come. Now moving on to the defense and the defensive line, this is a position that Penn State's really starting to improve a lot in. One player that really sticks out in this recruiting class is Danny Dennis Sutton. He's out of Maryland. Without a doubt, I think he's one of the best players to come out of Maryland, if not the best player to come out of Maryland in this class. He's a 5-star defensive lineman, and he has a very high ceiling. He can very well be a leader for this defensive line in potentially year 2. And in a Manny Diaz defense, you can see a lot of these guys become a contributor. Now moving on to the linebacker position, Penn State was able to land 2 players, a 4-star and a 3-star. The 4-star Abdul Carter out of Glenside, Pennsylvania, and Keon Wiley out of Philadelphia. Penn State has been known to develop really good linebackers. You look at Micah Parsons a few years ago. As you see Penn State start to transform their defense a little bit, you will continue to see a lot of linebacker involvement, and I could very well see both of these guys playing a big role in that defense. Now going to the secondary, Penn State was able to land some really good safety depth this year and land 3 safeties. One guy I'm really high on is their sole corner that they were able to get in this class, Cam Miller out of Jacksonville, Florida. He's 6'1", 180. He's got ideal corner height and size, and he has really good ball skills. But once again, pointing out the 3 safeties that they were able to get, being able to get 3 guys at one position, especially in the secondary, is really good for the future. And really, I could see any of these 3 guys stepping up and being a leader at that safety position one day at Penn State. And now going through the athletes and transfers. First one is Mekhi Flowers. I think he's going to be a safety from what I've read. He also has very good speed to be a receiver, but I think he's going to primarily stick at safety. And like I said earlier with the safety depth, if this guy adds on to that depth, then Penn State's going to be very good in the secondary. And kind of going down to the transfers here, we have Demion Robinson, a 4-star edge rusher transferring over from Maryland. I think this guy is potentially going to be a day 1 starter. I think he's going to be a huge impact to the defense in his first year at Penn State. And then going to Hunter Norzad, he didn't have any stars coming out of high school, but he's now a 3-star transfer coming over from Cornell. He's really stood out there. He kind of wants to go to a bigger school and kind of showcase his talent, just deservingly so. And so this is another guy that you could possibly see start or at least getting a lot of playing time in his first year at Penn State. And then we have Mitchell Tinsley, a wide receiver coming over from Western Kentucky. Also another guy that I think is going to have a lot of playing time at Penn State this upcoming year. Overall, I do think Penn State's going to improve from last year. How much are they going to improve? I'm not really sure. There's still a lot of question marks with Penn State football this upcoming year, but James Franklin, to me, is a very good coach. I think he's going to figure out how to turn things around. And who knows, maybe Penn State can surprise some people this year.